You are Locked On 49ers Postcast, part of Locked On Sports San Francisco on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR. And today, the 49ers are real-time watching their playoff hopes slip away as they fell below 500 today with a 38-10 blowout loss to the Green Bay Packers. The 28-point shellacking was the worst loss the 49ers have ever suffered at the hands of the Packers in the storied history of this rivalry. The Niners turned the ball over 3 times, and all 3 times the Green Bay Packers capitalized with touchdowns. With Brock Purdy, Nick Bosa, Trent Williams, and numerous others out today, the talent disparity was stark. The penalties, a big problem. The drop passes, a big problem. This team looked all sorts of dysfunctional. We'll break it all down, but first, I want to thank all of you for watching us on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. Please hit that subscribe button if you aren't already subscribed. Thanks also for listening on the Locked On 49ers podcast feed, and make sure to check out the Locked On 49ers Daily Show for more in-depth coverage. Today's show is sponsored by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. And this one, from the jump, I had a bad feeling about this. I think everybody did. We got the notification that Trent Williams was going to be out today, and that was kind of the last hope that I had for the 49ers offense in this one, because with Trent Williams in the game, you could at least still be effective in the run game, the big left side of the line, just going back to what works for this offense, the bread and butter. Christian McCaffrey running the ball to the left, the zone run scheme, and the 49ers just had nothing there today. The line did not look good. Multiple pressures given up. Not a ton of push at the point of attack. But from the jump in this one, first play of the game, not even the first play from scrimmage, the kickoff, Jake Moody runs up to kick this one off and slips and falls and gives the Packers plus field position to start the game. And they end up going right down the field on that first drive and scoring. And from the jump, I tweeted it out immediately. The Jake Moody slip on the kickoff, I felt like that was an ominous sign of things to come for the 49ers. And right away for the Packers, you saw them hitting the run game hard. Jacobs on that first drive, it just seemed like every time he touched that ball, he was falling forward for at least 7-8 yards. An 18-yard run breaks him into 49er territory, a couple 10-yard runs, 8-yard runs. Lenore gets hurt on that opening drive. He did return later in that first half, but more injuries, just making life really hard on the 49ers. Packers eventually score on that opening drive on a Tucker Kraft tight end screen, which I thought was a kind of creative call. It's things like that the 49ers defense have really had a hard time handling all season long, where you kind of get everyone shifted one way and moving one way, and the misdirection goes the other, and that's what you saw on that play. Fred Warner can't be everywhere on this defense at one time. Again, missing all sorts of starters. Nick Bosa not in this game, a big problem. Charvarius Ward not in this game. The 49ers felt all of these guys' absences. Drake Greenlaw still not out there. So the 49ers really, really lacking. In total, the injury report was no Kevin Givens, no Brock Purdy, no Nick Bosa, no Jacob Cowing, no Charvarius Ward, no Khalil Davis, and no Trent Williams. So not only are you missing super talented guys all the way across this roster, you're missing your normal kick/punt returner. You're missing 3 of your defensive linemen. So this was a really, really, really uphill battle for the 49ers to climb. And the biggest uphill part of the entire thing was Brandon Allen at quarterback. And from the first drive, shaky. First snap of the game, he throws this quirky little shovel pass to George Kittle. He had a clean pocket and just kind of shuffled out of it and didn't really seem to know where to go with the ball. And the 49ers receivers didn't do a great job of getting a ton of separation today. Brandon Allen wasn't able to fit those balls into those tight windows that Brock Purdy is able to do. And I think you really saw the value of Brock Purdy today. For as much as everyone loves to say that, Brock Purdy shouldn't just earn all these flowers yet, because any quarterback could be successful in the Kyle Shanahan system. Well, look at what Brandon Allen turned in today with largely the same, weapons around him. No Trent Williams, obviously, but I mean, you got Deebo Samuel, you got Christian McCaffrey, you got George Kittle, you got Jawan Jennings, and Brandon Allen still looked about how you would expect Brandon Allen to look at this point in his career. I mean, he has not started a game since 2021. So, I mean, I don't know that you could have hoped to expect much more from this. What was interesting to me about the Brandon Allen thing is that we got a report during the game from Tom Rinaldi that this guy had a broken finger. Like about 2 weeks ago, he broke his finger in practice. Why is Josh Dobbs on this roster? Like, what is he doing on this roster? If the backup quarterback has a broken finger and you're still going to roll with that guy, why do you even carry a third quarterback at that point? Josh Dobbs, we saw what he was able to do last season. I mean, for the Vikings and for the Cardinals, I think I'd much rather have seen Josh Dobbs out there tonight. Gives you another added element. You know, you're going to have the talent is going to be lesser than Brock Purdy, whoever you're rolling out there as your backup. But at least Josh Dobbs gives you the added element of maybe he'll make something happen with his legs. I'm not saying that he would have made much of a difference in this one because, again, 28-point loss is a 28-point loss, and there's not one change that you can make that's going to fix a 28-point loss. But at the end of the day, I think that would have been a better option for the 49ers. But there's, a lot of things they could have done differently in this one. The Packers seems like they couldn't miss on third downs for, the first like 5 or 6 attempts they had. I think they only missed on one of them. And Sorensen and the play calling, man. I mean, you got your best pass rusher out and you're still just rushing 4 down linemen the majority of the time. He calls blitzes. Sometimes we know that he's not a big blitzer, but you got to find a way to generate some pressure against opposing quarterbacks with your best guys out. I mean, no Hargrave. Obviously, he's been missing for the majority of the season at this point. No Nick Bosa. You don't have Chase Young anymore. This D-line looks vastly different than it looked last season. This is not the same group that you can just send the down 4 linemen and you're going to go get the quarterback. That's not going to happen with this group right now. Leonard Floyd is doing everything he can out there, but it's not going to work, man. That's not the only thing that you can have on your D line as a plus and expect to go do positive things out on the football field in the NFL. That's just not how this works. And you saw it today. I mean, the Green Bay Packers just ran all over this 49ers defense. They could not stop them. 169 rushing yards for the Green Bay Packers. They ran the ball 42 times against this 49ers defense. They just punched them in the mouth. They absolutely had no response, no answer for this. And I said Josh Jacobs was running all over him earlier. It was really anybody who touched the ball out of that Green Bay backfield. It was tough to watch this game, man. This felt like I just got transported like 7-8 years back into the past, into the late 2010s. And I got it felt like I was watching CJ Beathard or Nick Mullins running around out there with a decent but not good 49ers defense. And just, that was a really tough loss to watch. Aside from Josh Jacobs, by the way, Emmanuel Wilson had 41 rushing yards for the Packers on 9 carries. So, I mean, really everybody was getting involved with this Packers run game. Meanwhile, the 49ers run game is a big problem. Christian McCaffrey, only 11 carries in this one. You would have expected with Brandon Allen rolling out there as the starting quarterback today, you were going to lean on that run game, on Christian McCaffrey. Why the hell did he only run the ball 11 times? Why was there only 16 rushing attempts in total by this 49ers offense? That is way too low. I know they were trailing for the majority of the time in this one, but the amount of early passing calls, early and downs that put the 49ers behind the sticks, the amount of penalties that put the 49ers behind the sticks early on, so you had to call passing plays early on. It just was a disaster all the way around, through the 49ers completely out of sync, out of rhythm, and they never found it for a second in this game. 11 carries for McCaffrey, only 31 yards, a 2.8 yard per carry average. I mean, he just was not good today. The 49ers as a whole putting the ball on the turf. Christian McCaffrey did at the end there as well. That final fumble for the 49ers. I mean, this one could have been even worse too. The 49ers fumbled a kickoff earlier in this one that they somehow magically got back. I mean, the 49ers seemed like they didn't get on the plane this week mentally. Like they physically showed up in Green Bay. Obviously, they went and played that football game. It seemed like they left their motivation, their mindset, their winning mentality back here in the Bay. I mean, the 49ers fall below 500, 5-6 on the season. Now the Green Bay Packers with the win move up to 8-3. And with this loss, the playoffs are looking harder and harder and harder to get to. And yes, the 49ers are aided by a weak NFC West. The Seahawks helped them out significantly today by beating the Arizona Cardinals. So the 49ers, it's not impossible. They're still within striking distance, but they're going to have a large hill to climb. I mean, you split the season series against Seattle, and you lost earlier this year to Arizona. So that makes week 18, if the 49ers are still, on the cusp of being able to win this division, they're going to have to beat the Cardinals in week 18, I think, to make the playoffs. If they even get there. The way the 49ers make the playoffs is going to come down to the final game of the season. But before then, man, next up, you got the Bills. And if the 49ers can't go and beat the Packers without their full complement of players, there's no chance in hell that they're going to go beat Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, who are playing probably some of the best football in all of the NFL right now. That's a scheduled loss on Sunday Night Football next weekend. And then after that, you got the Bears. They got a tough defense, and Caleb Williams looks like he's figuring it out more and more every day, every week. The Rams come to town after that, who the 49ers have already lost to as well. You need to win that game because the Rams are still keeping pace with the rest of the NFC West as well. You get the Dolphins, and then you got the Lions, who are another one in that upper top tier echelon of NFL teams. And then you get the Cardinals to finish out the season. So there's no easy games left on this schedule. The Dolphins fighting for their playoff lives, looking like a phenomenal offense out there. Again, Tua had a great day. Jalen Waddle, big day. So every single one of these games is going to be tough for the 49ers going forward. There's no gimme wins. That playoff picture, it's a question mark, man, right now. It is not a guarantee that this 49ers team is going to make the playoffs. And at the end of the day, I mean, the chance, the percentages of the 49ers making the playoffs shrink dramatically with this loss. According to Amazon Web Services, the 49ers now only have a 15% chance to make the playoffs with this loss. So that is a huge dip. If they would have won this game, they would have had a 46% chance to make the playoffs, according to Amazon Web Services. But that's a dramatic change with this loss. It is really a pivot point in this season, and it just had to be a loss to the Packers, man. It felt like the Packers were just unleashing several years of pent-up just anguish and anger, and they released it all onto the 49ers via belt to butt today out there on the football field. It was just a massacre out there at Lambeau Field. To quote the great George Brett, it was a bloodbath out there at Lambeau, and the 49ers just had no shot from the jump in this one. I mean, you fell behind so early, so big, and with Brandon Allen quarterbacking this team, a 17-0 deficit in that first half was just impossible to overcome. And it was made even more impossible by the 3 second half turnovers. Just so many things to break down from this one. We didn't really get into the penalties too much. We didn't get into the missed tackles. Oh my God, we got to get into that. And the Debo drops. Wow. I mean, was there a single positive thing from tonight's game? I genuinely can't think of a positive that I can glean from this loss. Usually I'm pretty good at that. Usually I can play Pollyanna a little bit and find one thing to be happy about at the end of a loss, or something that can build on to end it. I'm not seeing it right now, man. I'm just not. The only positive is maybe they'll be more healthy next week than they were this week. That's about all I got for you in that department. So next, I guess we got to talk more about all the bad things that plagued the 49ers today. The penalties, the missed tackles, the Debo Samuel drops. Debo has looked bad this season. Let's talk about that and more next on the Locked On 49ers postcast. Today's show is sponsored by Hillsdale College. Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free online courses, including Constitution 101, the meaning and history of the Constitution, Introduction to Free Market Economics, The Great American Story, A Land of Hope, The Rise and Fall of the Roman Republic, and a brand new documentary-style course on Marxism, Socialism, and Communism. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced so that you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. And today's show is also sponsored by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 10 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Just download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. Tonight, the 49ers, 38-10, historically bad loss to the Green Bay Packers. The 28-point margin of defeat is the largest the 49ers have ever suffered at the hands of their rival Green Bay Packers, and this one felt just as bad as that score looked. The 49ers were trailing, needed a spark coming out of the second half, and instead of a spark for them, they just lit a fire under the Green Bay Packers, said, here you go, take the ball and go down and score. 3 separate times the 49ers gifted the Green Bay Packers the football gift wrapped. I know Christmas is right around the corner, but I don't think we're feeling all that giving when it comes to giving away turnovers to the Green Bay Packers. And the Packers, they weren't feeling very giving themselves. They were feeling pretty greedy. They went back down the field on all 3 of those turnovers and scored touchdowns all 3 of those times. The 49ers have been really bad at second half defense and fourth quarter defense specifically this season. I mean, the 49ers are currently 28th out of 32 teams in the NFL in opponent second half points per game. They're giving up more than 2 touchdowns in the second half of games. There's only the only other teams to give up more than 2 touchdowns in the second halves of games this season to average that is the Dallas Cowboys, not good. The Tennessee Titans, who have been not good. The Baltimore Ravens, who have been up and down. Their defense has been a big letdown at times this year. The Cincinnati Bengals, who same boat as the Ravens, and the Las Vegas Raiders. And you never want to be in the same conversation with the Raiders and their defense. Shout out the Raiders defense today, though. It looked pretty good out there against the Broncos and Bo Nix. But for the 49ers, this one was so hard for them to get anything going in the first half. And it felt like they ended that first half on somewhat of a positive note. Like they figured out how to move the ball. They ended up getting into the end zone. George Kittle scored a touchdown, caught one in the back of the end zone from Brandon Allen. And on that drive, I thought that the 49ers did a good job moving the ball down the field and kind of set themselves up to build on that going into the second half. It was right after they fumbled that kickoff and somehow recovered it. And it was like 2 or 3 times on that drive. 49ers had a 3rd and short and then a pre-snap penalty or a holding or something ended up putting them behind the chains in those situations, turning those 3rd and shorts into 3rd and longs. And in all of those times, the Niners were able to convert it. They were running a lot of pass plays towards the boundary, towards the outside boundary, instead of trying to work over the middle of the field. And it seemed like they were finding some success there. And then eventually they found Kittle over the middle of the field in the back of the end zone for that touchdown. So I thought it was a great job of Shanahan calling plays, mixing in a bunch of different types of passes to keep this Green Bay Packers defense off balance. And I thought that was a good sign going into the second half that the 49ers got that touchdown. And it was only a 10-point deficit. However, things changed dramatically after that point in the second half. Those fumbles, things got away really quickly. That interception and the Packers scoring all 3 touchdowns on all 3 of those turnovers. They outscore the 49ers in the second half 21-3. Again, 21-3. The Packers just lay it on the 49ers after halftime. You're not going to win many games where you only manage a field goal after halftime. You have to figure out a way to put points on the board. It's as simple as that. 10 points isn't going to win you very many football games. You have to be able to score in the second halves of games. And the 49ers seem to get weaker, not stronger as they went on. And that's the opposite of what we're used to with this run game, with this team. The way that they beat teams is by wearing you down, by beating you up at the point of attack, and by eventually dominating you in the run game. I saw absolutely none of that today from the 49ers. And it's hard to be able to lean on the run game when you fall behind this far, this early. And the reason the 49ers did is because they had 20 missed tackles in this game. 10 of them in that first quarter, which is, by the way, the high watermark for any NFL team this season, or should I say the low watermark, because nobody wants to be missing 10 tackles in one quarter. That is, I mean, that's absurd. That's complete. I've never heard of something like that with this 49ers defense. You have all these playmakers all over the place on this team, and you're letting Josh Jacobs, who's a good running back, he's been, on a tear in the second half of the season for him, and he's been really great as of late. But if you're the 49ers defense, you've got to find a way that once you get to the guy, you've got to wrap him up and bring him down. You cannot let him continue to run through arm tackles, and that's all the 49ers were letting him do today. And it's hard, again, when you're missing 3 defensive linemen out with injuries, when you're missing Dre Greenlaw, when you're missing Charvarius Ward. All of these things are problems. The safety play has been up and down all season long. Mustafa has been a bright spot at times, but other than that, it has been rough. I mean, there's been a lot of bad pass coverages. There's been a lot of missed tackles from the safety spot, hence why there's been so many big plays once guys get into the second level. And with the 49ers missing all these D linemen and Dre Greenlaw, I mean, they're not able to win at the point of attack. They're not able to get sideline to sideline, and they're not able to stop you from having big explosive plays over the top. I really, truly don't know what this 49ers defense is able to do right now when pretty much the only good player that seems to be out there and active besides Demo Lenore and is Fred Warner. And I mean, Fred Warner and Demo Lenore played all right today. I mean, Demo he looked a little banged up. He looked a little slow to me in this one. So he did pick up an injury in the first quarter and exit. So I think we need to keep an eye on Demo Lenore this week. And if they're missing him going into the Bills game, you can just schedule that loss, because this is good luck stopping Josh Allen. You couldn't stop Jordan Love and the Packers. Good luck stopping MVP candidate Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Meanwhile, their defense has been playing awesome. The Bills defense has. So also good luck scoring on them. I mean, this is not a good situation for the 49ers to be in. I had a feeling this was going to happen after the way last week's game ended, when the 49ers lost to the Seahawks. So, I mean, this is just, I did not expect the 49ers to come out and win this week. I did not expect them to lay a 28-point loss, a 28-point margin of defeat, egg out there, though. I thought they were going to go into Lambeau with some pride. I mean, that's a place the 49ers have historically played pretty well under the Kyle Shanahan regime. He's always had a little bit of a leg up on his former mentee, Matt LaFleur, the head coach of the Packers. Not so today. Absolutely not so. The Packers just take it to the 49ers, 38-10, dominate them on the ground in pretty much every single phase of the game. The penalties for the 49ers, just awful, abysmal. I mean, the 49ers just gave away so many drives because of penalties, so many penalties on first down, so many holding penalties that just immediately put you behind the sticks and you're working in a 1st and 15, 1st and 20 situation. The 49ers overall, the penalty disparity wasn't glaring when you look at it. It was 9 penalties for the 49ers for 77 yards versus 5 for the Packers for 40 yards. So it's a 37-yard difference. That's notable, but doesn't feel massive. But when you think about when those penalties were, the timing of them, they were either first down, and they were 10+ yard penalties that set them back into like 1st and 20, or it was on 3rd down where you had a 3rd and short and you turned it into a 3rd and long. And the 49ers hurt themselves all day long. And that's, I mean, the one thing you could not do today with all these players out, with all these guys missing, the 49ers' only chance of winning this game was to play a clean game, to not turn the ball over, to not commit dumb penalties, and to just go out there and run the ball and have Brandon Allen check the ball down and make some easier throws, have Shanahan scheme up some of the out routes that are intermediate to short distances. Don't have them push the ball down the field too much. That was the recipe for a victory today. Instead, the 49ers just get absolutely drummed. They can't do any of those things at all. The run game, man, 11 carries for 31 yards. You're seeing the absence of Trent Williams and how much They really need this guy on the offensive line to be able to run the ball. You're also seeing the gravity of Brock Purdy, because when he's out there, you can't just stack the box like they did every single time tonight. Brock will make you pay if you do that. It just seemed like the Packers were determined to make the 49ers beat them by throwing the ball, and they absolutely could not do that. Just bad. And part of that reason, Mr. Deebo Samuel. We got to talk about Deebo. He has not had a good season, and today, this might have been his worst game of the entire season when they needed him the most. We had T.O. earlier this week said that Deebo needs to lock in more on game day. He said that on 95.7 The Game. He went on and kind of said that Deebo's a little more focused on his pregame rituals than actually performing in the game. We got to talk about Deebo Samuel next, man, because he is really hurting this team. Let's talk about that next and more on the Locked On 49ers Postcast. Today's show is sponsored by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and today the 49ers 38-10 lost to the Green Bay Packers. They got beaten pretty much every single phase of the game, every single phase across the board, offense, defense, special teams, every single thing. Coaching, I thought Matt LaFleur called a pretty good game, and Shanahan, aside from that one drive, kind of went away from things that were working, did not run the ball very well, and this was a problem. This was a game that is indicative of a lot of on this 49ers team. And we've talked about a bunch of them, the penalties, the general terribleness on defense with all the missed tackles, and obviously the lack of talent, the sheer lack of talent that the 49ers had today with all of the injuries. It was very tangible. However, probably the single most talented guy that the 49ers had out on the field, one of the most versatile players in all of the NFL. You can make a case that that's Deebo Samuel, a guy who can play running back, wide receiver, and has been a just wrecking ball in his time with the 49ers. There's been games where this guy has just completely taken over and led this offense to a win, especially when other people are out. You have Brandon Ayuk obviously done for the season with the knee still, and Deebo has just disappeared. Absolutely disappeared in recent weeks. And today we see it again. He was targeted 4 times. He had 1 reception for 21 yards. And that 1 reception for 21 yards was a screen pass. It was probably the most exciting play of the day for the 49ers. I think it was the longest play of the day for the 49ers. It was a double reverse that looked like it was going to be a flea flicker, but then it went back to Brandon Allen, and he ended up just throwing a really confusing screen pass out to Deebo Samuel. But it worked, gave him a nice little alley to run up the right sideline and into Packers territory, 21 yards. It was a good play, but that's it. That's all that we got from Deebo Samuel. This guy had 2 passes go right through the wickets in this one that were in big moments in the second half. I don't know what's wrong with him right now. He just does not seem, I got to echo what T.O. said. He did not seem focused. He did not seem like he showed up ready to play. He did not seem like he showed up ready to make an impact in this game. Christian McCaffrey, you say what you want about his efficiency. He looks bad. He does not look like himself, but he at least looked like he came to play. Like, this guy was out here running hard, doing what he could in the pass game. Deebo, he just kind of looks lost out there. He does not look focused. He does not look like he's as engaged as we've seen him in the past. And that's a big problem for the 49ers. They need Deebo Samuel to be a playmaker for this team. You cannot have Deebo continue to get 1 to 2 receptions per game with 20-something yards and no touchdowns. You need this guy to go be that game wrecker that he used to be, that X factor that he's just not this season. Deebo has 1 touchdown catch all year long. He also has 1 rushing touchdown, so he has 2 total touchdowns all season long, but that's just not enough. Absolutely not enough. This whole month, he's got 9 receptions on 13 targets for 84 yards for the entire month of November. You got to do something, man. With Ayuk out, Kittle has stepped up in a big way. George Kittle, his 8th touchdown reception of the season. I said earlier I was having a hard time grabbing something positive. There's something positive to grab from today's game. George Kittle with his 8th touchdown catch of the season. George Kittle is having a resurgent year catching the football after he had some questions the last couple of years of if he was still one of those elite pass catchers out of the tight end position. There's some people around the NFL who are just insane by making those kinds of declarations. I never for a second thought that he had fallen out of that upper echelon, and he's proving it right now every day when the 49ers are spiraling, and he's the only bright spot on this offense. But Deebo Samuel, man, needs to pick it up. McCaffrey not seeing the field as well as he normally does is concerning to me, but it's also, McCaffrey has barely played this season. He was out for a long time, and it's going to take him some time to be able to get that vision back and play within this offense. Again, it's not something you can just develop overnight. Deebo has been here the whole season, man. Like, fit into the offense and help this team go win a game because they need you, buddy. Like, bad. Starting next week against the Buffalo Bills, it is going to take a miracle, an absolute miracle for the 49ers to win that game on Sunday Night Football. I just do not understand how you're going to go on the road into Buffalo and win that game. I can already foresee that there's going to be weather. I haven't looked at the weather app, but I'm just guessing this time of year out in New York, it's not going to be a very weather-friendly game, and I don't think that bodes well for the 49ers at all. I think that if we do see some snow in that game, that the Bills are just going to absolutely destroy the 49ers. They'll probably destroy them either way, but we'll see how that one goes, man. We'll see if the 49ers get stomped in a grassy field or a snowy field on Sunday Night Football next week, because they got absolutely no shot if they do not get a large number of these injured players back. Jordan Elliott was also evaluated for a concussion in this game, so the 49ers missed 4 D linemen at one point. But you got to get mainly the big 3, Brock Purdy, Nick Bosa, Trent Williams. If you don't have those 3 guys back next week, that's a loss for the 49ers. So the 49ers, if they lose next week, I have serious doubts about them making the playoffs. Next week's basically a must win, almost damn near a must win, or you need to keep getting help from the rest of the NFC West, and you got to hope that everyone else keeps on losing. So we'll see what happens as it keeps going, but the 49ers season is teetering on the brink of destruction right now. This is week 11, week 12, this was week 12. So, we're going into week 13 thinking the 49ers might be cooked. So this is unprecedented territory for the Brock Purdy era / Jimmy Garoppolo era 49ers. This is something that we saw a lot with CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins back in the day. So I do not want to go back to those days, and that's exactly what this felt like. And man, if this is how the 49ers season ends, this is not going to be a good offseason. This is not going to be a fun postseason. This is not going to be a fun last few weeks of the season. The 49ers need to win next week against the Bills. That's all the time that we got for you guys today. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Until then, in the meantime, tune into our Locked On Warriors postcasts. We'll be coming to you live tomorrow night when the Warriors take on the Brooklyn Nets. We'll be coming to you live on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. So follow us if you aren't already following along. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Peace.